The sun had just begun to set as Alice drove her car down the long, winding road that led to her grandmother's mansion. She had never met her grandmother, who had been estranged from the family for years, but when she received the news of her passing and the inheritance of the mansion, Alice couldn't resist the temptation to explore it. The rumors about her grandmother being a witch only added to her curiosity. As she pulled up to the large ivy-covered gate, Alice couldn't help but feel a sense of trepidation. The mansion was isolated, surrounded by dense woods, and had an eerie quality to it. She wondered how her grandmother had lived here for so long, all by herself. The gates creaked open and Alice drove through, following the winding driveway that led to the mansion's entrance. She parked the car and stepped out, taking in the grandeur of the mansion. It was a sprawling Victorian style structure with imposing pillars and large bay windows. The mansion was almost intimidating in its magnificence, and Alice wondered what secrets it held within its walls. As she made her way to the front door, Alice felt a strange sensation at the back of her neck, as if someone was watching her. She turned around, but the driveway was empty. Shaking off the feeling, she pushed open the door and stepped inside. The mansion's interior was just as grand as its exterior. The entrance hall was spacious, with a sweeping staircase leading to the upper floors. The walls were adorned with paintings of the family's ancestors, some of whom had a striking resemblance to Alice herself. She wondered if her grandmother had been keeping track of the family through these portraits. As she explored the mansion, Alice couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. The air was thick with a musty, almost moldy smell, and the silence was oppressive. She wondered if anyone had lived in the mansion since her grandmother had passed away. As Alice made her way to the upper floor, she heard a faint whispering sound. She paused, listening intently, but the sound had stopped. She shook her head, chiding herself for being paranoid, and continued exploring. As she opened one of the doors, Alice gasped in surprise. The room was small, with an old-fashioned four-poster bed and a wardrobe. But what caught her attention was the pentagram etched into the wooden floor. Alice had heard that her grandmother was rumored to be a witch, but she had never expected to find evidence of it in the mansion. As she stepped closer to the pentagram, Alice felt a sudden gust of wind, and the candles on the floor flickered to life. She stumbled backward, heart racing as she heard a low growling sound from the darkness. Alice ran out of the room, slamming the door shut behind her. She leaned against the wall, trying to steady her breathing. What had just happened? Had she imagined the growling sound and the candles lighting up? As she tried to calm herself down, Alice heard footsteps coming from the direction of the staircase. She peered around the corner, but there was no one there. She took a tentative step forward, and the footsteps grew louder. Alice felt a chill run down her spine as she realized that she wasn't alone in the mansion. The rumors about her grandmother being a witch suddenly seemed all too real. As she made her way back to the entrance hall, Alice saw movement out of the corner of her eye. She turned to look, but there was nothing there. She shook her head, trying to convince herself that it was just her imagination playing tricks on her. Suddenly the air grew colder, and Alice heard a howling sound coming from the woods outside. She felt a sudden sense of dread, as if something terrible was about to happen. As she tried to make her way to the front door, Alice heard the sound of footsteps behind her. She turned around, but there was no one there. She felt as if she was being followed, but she couldn't see anyone. Alice ran to the front door, fumbling with the lock as she tried to escape whatever was chasing her. She pushed open the door and stepped outside, gasping for breath. As she stood on the front porch, Alice saw a figure emerge from the woods. It was a large, wolf-like creature with glowing yellow eyes and razor-sharp teeth. Alice felt her blood run cold as she realized that the rumors about her grandmother being a witch were true. The mansion was haunted by the spirits of her ancestors, who had been cursed to turn into werewolves every night and prey on the villagers. Alice ran back into the mansion, slamming the door shut behind her. She leaned against the door, trying to catch her breath, as she heard the sound of scratching and snarling coming from outside. She knew she had to find a way to break the curse and put an end to the haunting. Alice made her way back to the room with the pentagram, hoping to find some clue or information that could help her break the curse. As she entered the room, she felt a sudden chill run down her spine, and the candles on the floor flickered to life once again. Alice took a deep breath and stepped closer to the pentagram. She noticed that there were strange symbols etched into the wood, and she wondered if they held any significance. Suddenly, Alice heard a faint whispering sound, as if someone was trying to communicate with her. She strained to listen, but the sound was too faint to make out any words. As she stood there trying to make sense of what was happening, Alice felt a sudden gust of wind, and the candles went out. She stumbled backwards, heart racing, as she heard the growling sound once again. This time, it was louder, more menacing. Alice knew that she had to act fast. She had to find a way to break the curse and put an end to the haunting. But how? She remembered something her mother had told her when she was a child. Her mother had said that the family had a legacy of magic, passed down from generation to generation to generation. Alice had always dismissed it as a fairy tale, but now it seemed all too real. Alice decided to explore the mansion further, hoping to find some clue or information that could help her break the curse. As she made her way to the library, she noticed that the portraits of the family's ancestors seemed to follow her with their eyes. Alice shuddered and quickened her pace, her heart racing with fear. She entered the library, and her eyes widened at the sight of the vast collection of books. She knew that she had to find the one book that could help her break the curse. But where to start? Alice began to search through the books, hoping to find some clue or information that could help her. She spent hours poring over the pages, her eyes growing tired and her mind growing weary. As the night wore on, Alice felt a sense of desperation creeping up on her. She knew that time was running out, and she had to find a way to break the curse before it was too late. Finally, as she was about to give up hope, Alice found a book that caught her eye. It was an ancient tome bound in leather and adorned with strange symbols. Alice opened the book and began to read. She felt a surge of excitement as she realized that she had found what she was looking for. The book contained a ritual that could break the curse and put an end to the haunting. But it was a risky and dangerous ritual, one that could have dire consequences. Alice knew that she had to perform the ritual no matter what the cost. She gathered the necessary ingredients and began to perform the ritual, her hands shaking with fear and excitement. As she chanted the incantations and performed the ritual, Alice felt a sudden surge of energy coursing through her body. She felt as if she was connecting with something ancient and powerful, something that had been buried deep within the mansion for centuries. Finally, as she completed the ritual, Alice felt a sudden rush of wind, and the candles in the room flickered to life once again. She heard a low growling sound, but this time it was different. It was a sound of release, of freedom. Alice knew that the curse had been broken, and the spirits of her ancestors had been released from their torment. She felt a sense of relief and triumph, knowing that she had put an end to the haunting and broken the curse. As she made her way outside the mansion, Alice saw the first rays of dawn breaking through the trees. She felt a sense of peace and closure, knowing that she had finally laid her family's ghosts to rest. Alice got into her car and drove away, leaving the mansion behind her. She knew that she would never forget the experience, but she also knew that she had finally found the closure she had been seeking for so long. If you like my story, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like the video for more and similar stories.